Hey everyone, Blaine here, and we are in Seattle, and we're going to do a short flight today from Seattle to Portland. In this flight, I'm going to go over the procedure that I normally do, which is kind of everything that you have to do to get from your departure airport to your arrival airport. Additionally, I'm going to be posting in the description my SkyVector and Navigraph video on how to plan flights and get the appropriate information to be able to do the a full flight and have that information. Additionally, I'm going to be posting an updated FMC video which has the full procedure for the version that I'm using. I have two videos prior to this, one that shows the full way, but because Zibo updates the FMC so often, he's changing it to be more and more immersive, and so I want to do another video that captures the whole process there. Additionally, I'm going to also post a picture of my flight setup and what I'm using for flight simulation in terms of a throttle, keyboard, controls, flight pedals, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have some of these things, it's okay. You can still do it using keyboard and mouse or things like that. It just makes it a lot easier and more immersive if you have a flight stick and a throttle. These things are expensive to buy. They absolutely are. But I have found that having them has made a huge difference, and I really have to say that it's made a difference in me learning how to do this stuff. So with that in mind, let's get into it. We're going to get ready here. So we're in Seattle, and we're in Zibo 737-800. I'm flying the WestJet Lever today because I'm a proud Canadian, and WestJet is actually from my province, which is Alberta. So with that in mind, let's get started. So we're going to jump into the aircraft, and we're going to go to the FMC. So if you're following along here, we're using version 3.22x, or 3.22 X-ray. So that's the version we're using here. So we're going to hit FMC, and we're going to go to Position Initial. We're going to select our reference airport, which is Seattle, or KSEA. And we're going to line select reference airport. We're then going to go to route. We're going to put our departure runway, which will be 16 left. We're going to put in our destination, which will be Portland, which is KPDX, Kilo Papa Delta X-ray. And I haven't used this yet in terms of the way it's supposed to be done, but my kind of personal call sign that I like to go by is 175, so I put the flight number in there. Okay, we're going to go to Preference Initial. We're going to put in our cost index, which will be 50, our reserves, which will be 1. We're going to select our altitude selector, 14,000 feet, so we're going to go 140. We're going to line select here. We're going to execute. We're now going to go to N1 limit. We're going to select our temperature, and how you do that is you go just above the engine screen here, and you can see that says 14 degrees Celsius. So we're going to go /14. We're going to select here. We're going to select 22 kd rate and climb 1, and then go to takeoff. We're going to enter our flaps, which will be 5 for takeoff configuration. As I said before, guys, as you affect changes in the FMC, always a good idea to affect them elsewhere so that they are done. So what that means is that because I've said to the computer the flaps are going to be 5, I'm going to set the flaps to 5. We're going to select our trim, which is going to be 4.63. So on our trim wheel, because these are integers of 1, we're going to go halfway between 4 and 5, like that. Back to the FMC, we're going to select our V-speeds, and 138 is going to be our V2 speed. So we're going to jump up to the MCP, or Mode Control Panel, and we're going to enter this information in. So 138, and we're going to set our altitude. I had to change something in the flight configuration, so it's already set, but normally you'd also change your altitude to 14,000. Back to the FMC here, and we're going to now go to departure arrival. We're departing from Seattle, so we're going to go here. We're going to select our SID, which is our standard instrument departure, which is going to be Sumo 1. I have all this information written down because I've done this flight a lot of times, but again, if you don't know how to plan flights or get this information, strongly encourage you to use SkyVector as well as Navigraph, Navigraph being the main one because it makes it super easy and user-friendly. Navigraph costs, I think, $11 Canadian a month and like $9.50 American, so it's super affordable and it's great to have. We are departing from runway 16 left, and we're going to go, just like this is our transition, we're going to go to route now, and we're going to activate it, and we're going to hit execute. Our flight plan is now executed. We're going to go back to departure arrival and go to Portland, go to arrival, and select our star, which is our standard airport arrival. We're going to select crater 2. We're not going to use a transition, and we're going to use 10 right ILS for our runway. And we're going to hit execute. So now that that's done, we got to jump back up to the mode control panel, and we got to change this to plan, and we're going to set it to 10. And with that, we are going to do our funny little zoom out thing on the FMC, so we can have the FMC and the nav display in the same screen. And we're going to go to legs, and then we're going to go through the entire route just to make sure we don't have discontinuities and everything's correct. So we're going to hit the step button for every waypoint. And as you can see, after our transition, we have a discontinuity. So with that in mind, we're going to select crater, and we're going to replace the discontinuity, and then we're going to hit execute. Okay, and so as you can see, this takes us, way, way back in the opposite direction. That's not good. So we're going to remove the transition and hit execute again. And then we're going to go previous page, and we're going to start again. So step. And as you can see, we have a connecting line, so we are good there. We're going to take this vector out of there, so we're going to hit Heron, and we're going to select the vector line and then hit execute again. So now, as you can see, we have a connecting flight path. It's kind of a weird configuration for Portland on approach to this runway because you have to do kind of a series of quick turns, but it's manageable. I've done it plenty of times before. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at our final approach fix, which is the last waypoint before the runway, which will be Powell's, and we can see that it's 2,000 feet. So with that, we're going to jump up to the overhead panel, and we're going to select our altitudes here. So our flight altitude is going to be 14,000, and our landing altitude is going to be 2,000. Back to the FMC. So one of the things I like to do here is I like to change my my approach speeds for the FMC because normally what will happen is when you go to init-ref, it's not showing it here. You actually have to be in the flight configuration. I'll show you what to do with this when we get to top of descent, but you're going to select your flaps 40 speed, and what that is it's almost always 130 or like 131 or something like that. So because of that, I want to make my speed at my final approach fix, which is this waypoint just before the runway, to be about that speed. So I'm going to go 135 slash, and I'm going to line select this one here and hit execute. So the FMC knows that my speed should be approximately 135 when I get to that waypoint. And then I'm just going to go up in intervals of 20. That's kind of what I do. So I'm going to go 155 slash and do the next one. Previous page 175 slash. And then this one here I'm going to hit, I'll hit 200. Hit execute. And the reason for this, just so everyone knows, just a sec here. Reason for that is because if you think about it, imagine right here, if the plane is doing 272 knots, and imagine this 251 wasn't here. Well, in 10 nautical miles, you have to go from 272 knots to 210 knots. That's kind of a radical slowdown. So what I'm essentially doing here is I'm giving a slow, progressive reduction of speed to the aircraft. Because the plane is going to be on approach and coming in, if you kind of hold your hand in front of your face and kind of slope it down, because the plane is descending, it's going to naturally increase speed on the fuselage. So you're going to have to help it manually slow down using the speed brake and flaps, but this initially kind of sets the aircraft up by saying, hey, this is the speed we should be at. So it's good to do that. So we know our flight path is correct. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to go to the overhead panel, and we're going to turn on the applicables here. I usually start the aircraft with the engines running because I don't have a full procedure on the startup. I'm working on that with my buddy Nick, who's my flight sim buddy, if you will, and he's working on that procedure. So we're going to get there eventually, and I will incorporate that into later videos, but right now the engines are started. So here we're going to turn on the window heat, probe heat. I'm going to set the engines to engine start to continuous, landing lights on, and strobe to steady. We've already set these landing altitudes and cruise altitudes, so that's fine. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the MCP, and we're going to turn on the master flight director, then the slave flight director. We're going to arm auto throttle, we're going to arm VNAV and LNAV. We're going to set our brakes to rejected takeoff. We can already see that our flaps are at 5. And then we're going to put this back to our configuration for map. And I usually like to turn on terrain. We're also going to go to the radio panel. Just a sec here. Okay, so the radio, sorry about that. Radios don't have to do anything, just want to make sure that they're obviously on, and that's fine. Okay, so with that in mind, I think we are good to go. So, let's get ready to take off. Now what we're going to do here is I'm going to kind of manually taxi, just because, and should be good. So, with that in mind, let's set the throttle there, set reversers, auto throttle reset, yeah, my apologies there. We're in reverse mode, and we're going to do parking brake off. And we're starting to back up, there we go. Oh, the luggage cart. Oh, he's going to stop for us. That's good. I'm always worried about those guys. Okay, and we're good to go forward now. I do my best to try and follow these lead-in lines, although it's not always easy. Now, because we're not using air traffic control, you know, you may think, well, why taxi? It's just kind of a good thing to practice, to, you know, work on, obviously, following the lead-in lines, learning aircrafts of where to go and things like that. Because, you know, when you're a real pilot and things like that, you can't just hit, you know, the chase button and view the outside of your aircraft. You have to do it completely by map. So it's just kind of good to get to know airports and things like that, because eventually what will happen is if you choose to use, you know, air traffic control such as Pilot Edge, when you're exiting a runway, you don't really have the time to pull up the map and stop and look and say, hey, this is where I need to go. You need to kind of know where the aircraft is, so, or where you're supposed to go, that is, and do it, because obviously you have traffic behind you, so. So we're taxiing to runway 16 left here. Seattle's one of those weird airports that are like on a hill. So you kind of have to see, okay, how far do we have to go? And I'm going to rearm auto throttle. And we're just about there. And again, one of those kind of good habits to get into when you're entering an active runway like this is to actually hold short just before the runway and take a look to see if there's any traffic coming. I mean, I don't have obviously virtual aircraft on, but it's just kind of a good idea, you know, to make sure that that there isn't anything coming, just by good practice. So we can see obviously that there's not. So let's go ahead and let's get out of here. Okay. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do here, I'm just going to put the parking brake on for 2 seconds. So you guys want to make sure that after you set your N1 limit and turn the parking brake off, you want to hit this button here, known as TOGA, or Takeoff Go Around. It's very important. Okay, so we're going to get our N1 limit to 40%, which is in the engine screen here. Like I said, as close to 40 as you can get it. If it's a little bit over that, that's fine. Release parking brake, activate TOGA. We're also going to hit flight path vector, which is here. Parking brake released, TOGA activated. You don't have to hit your throttle now. Just leave your throttle alone. We're going to rotate the aircraft at 138, and then we're good. Departing Seattle. Rotate aircraft. Positive rate, gear up. Okay, we're crossing 1,000 feet here, so I'm going to put the flaps up. Lean plane, nose the plane down a bit so we can pick up some speed, and then I'm going to activate autopilot. And we can see the gear is fully up, so I'm going to set it in the down position, or the off position if you will. I'm going to also take my throttle and set it to idle, which is all the way back. You're going to want to leave your throttle there for the whole flight. What will happen is when you do your final approach, you will want to kind of give it a toggle forward and then back just so that it registers that the throttle has moved. And that'll be really critical in order to get your reversers working properly. I've been having an issue with that and I couldn't figure out why, and then it was because I hadn't toggled the throttle, if you will. So we're climbing now. We are going to hold at 250 knots until we get to 10,000 feet, in which case the aircraft will then say, hey, we can go faster than that. But other than that, we're doing all right here. If this is the first time you're watching, you may hear me say certain things like positive rate and all that. So this little line right here, this is your rate monitor, and because it is, the line is obviously up above the altitude line, which is right here, that's a positive rate. If it were down here, that would be a negative rate. So when you hear me say positive rate gear up, it means that we are at a positive rate of climb, and we don't need the gear up anymore. So that's why I do that. If you notice on the nav screen here, there's a little thing here, a little marker that says T/C. That's top of climb. That is the, basically when you get to your cruise altitude, which will be 14,000 feet for us. You don't have to do anything at that altitude. You do have to do something when you get to top of descent. You have to configure the aircraft for landing and approach, which will be changing basically things in the MCP. But that's really important in order for the plane to land correctly, and I'll explain that when we get there. You don't want to do these changes until just before top of descent because it affects your fuel load and things like that. So we're doing good, we're climbing, everything's good. As you can see, we're getting close to 10,000, so just before that, we're going to make a couple of changes, and I will show you guys what that is in just a couple of moments. Coming up on 10,000, so we're going to go to the overhead panel. We're going to change our engine start to auto, and we're going to turn the landing lights off. As you can see, we've gone past 10,000 feet, and therefore the aircraft is increasing. We're going to go to our FMC. We're going to hit legs, and as you can see here, when we get to Sumo, we're going to be at 303 knots, and that's pretty normal. If you want to know kind of where you are in the flight path in your FMC, if you hit legs, it will show you what your distance is to your next waypoint here. If you want to know how long it's going to take you to get to your destination, if you hit progress, it will tell you how far it is to specific waypoints, specifically your SID and your star, and then to the actual destination airport. So right here, it says that we're due to arrive in Portland at 2,351 hours, and if I look at the clock on there, 2,324 hours, so we're about, 25 minutes away or so to that destination. The flight director here just notified us that we are approaching our cruise altitude of 14,000 feet, which means the plane will level off. And our speed is increasing. If you want to know how far away waypoints are, you can select on the MCP here, you can select your range. So currently it's set to 20 nautical miles. If I change it to, you can change it to 40, 60. So I can see here that we are at least, top of descent is just before crater. So if I go to the FMC, and I go to legs, I can see that crater is 26 and 36 is like 62 or something like that. I'm not good in math, pardon me. So we're like 60 nautical miles away from that. So we have a little bit of time for that. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to 40. Actually, I'll set it to 20. That's fine. And so until we get to top of descent, we really don't have to do anything other than just sit back and enjoy sit back and kind of enjoy the ride. So with that, I'm going to get off the mic, take some external shots that show the beautiful mountain scenery, and I will talk to you guys in just a little bit. Enjoy. Hey everyone, and I'm back now. So as you can see, we're coming up to top of descent here in about 10 nautical miles. So because of that, we have to configure the aircraft for landing. And little funny thing here, just off to my 11 o'clock here, that's Mount St. Helens, which erupted violently in May of 1980. Interesting fact there. So we got to configure for top of descent. So we're going to do that. So we're going to go to the FMC, and we're going to hit init ref. And right here is where we're going to select our flaps 40 speed. So we're going to line select here, and again. Okay? We can see that our course is 102, so we're going to go to the MCP, and we're going to set our course for 102. And then we're going to set the co-pilot's one for 102. We're going to go back to the FMC, and go to legs, and go to next page, and look for that final approach altitude, which is 2,000. Go to the MCP and change this to 2000. We're going to set our brakes to 2, auto brakes to 2, and then we're going to go back to the FMC and go to init ref again. And our ILS frequency is 110.5. So radios, 110.5. Oh. As you can see, I did this flight recently. We're going to set that to active. And then we're configured at top of descent now, so we're all good. So just a quick recap, the 4 things you have to do just prior to top of descent are you have to enter your final approach fix altitude, which is the waypoint just before your runway. You have to configure auto brakes to 2. You have to line select your flaps 40 speed in the FMC. And you have to get your course from the FMC, I guess it's 5, course, and then you have to select the, or enter the ILS frequency into the radio panel. So those are what you have to do just before top of descent. So we are beginning to descend, as we've now hit top of descent, and you can see that the plane is changing in speed. We're going up a little bit, and that's, like I said earlier in my kind of descent reference I made with my hand, which is because we are descending, we're naturally going to increase speed on the fuselage. So now we have to kind of assist the computer and the aircraft to slow down as we approach Portland. So if we go to FMC and we go to legs, we're supposed to be at crater, which will be our star, and we're supposed to be doing 272 knots. And we're right at that, so we're right on the money here. You can notice here that we're at 12,600 for our altitude, and in the FMC here we have 13B. So what does that mean? That means we have to be at or below that altitude. It's a restriction, and so that's why we're below it before we hit it, kind of. So once we cross over crater, we're going to have to then slow down again. And what you're going to do is you're probably going to hear the aircraft when you're flying it kind of make decel noises, and that's because it's naturally trying to slow down. So all we kind of have to do now is monitor the speeds and change it if necessary. Okay, so we're coming up to our next waypoint. It's in 6.2, and we need to be at 250 when we get there. Well, we're slowing down, but we're not slowing down fast enough, so I'm going to deploy the speed brake. Only a half notch, and that will help the aircraft slow down. This is what I mean when I refer to that kind of manual braking you're going to have to do, or manual, I guess, control. Coming up on 250, I'm going to retract the speed brake. We're now below 10,000 feet, so we're going to go to the overhead panel, and and we're going to change our engine starts to continuous, and we're going to put our landing lights on. We're 11.4 nautical miles from Voodoo, and we should be at 210 when we get to Voodoo. So, got a ways to go, and so when we get a little closer, I'll deploy the speed brake again to help slow it down. You want to try and use the speed brake or speed intervene on the MCP as opposed to using flaps, because you will use flaps eventually, but flaps will be the biggest thing that will probably slow you down, and you have traffic behind you. And so because of that, you can't just slow down and take your leisurely time to get into the airport. You know, you got traffic behind you, and that will make ATC very upset if you take your time coming in. So you got to kind of control how fast you're going, where you're at in the actual approach and things like that. And it takes a bit of learning, but you eventually get used to it. So we just crossed a decel point, so the aircraft is going to probably start slowing down a little more now. Just heard the FMC beep at me. That's probably drag required, and it is, yep. So, we're going to go and we're going to deploy the speed brake again. And I'm actually going to do full speed brake. Don't know if we are far enough away, but as soon as we get to 210, I believe it is. Yeah, 210, I'm going to turn the speed brake off, and then I'm going to check what our approach is looking like into the airport. So speed brake retract. Going to hit the map button here, and let's see here. Can we select 10 right? We've already entered it in, but never a bad idea just to hit tune nav 1. I can see if it's available, and it is. Fantastic. So we're going to hit our ILS there so that it knows to approach into that. Okay, we're at 210. Should be coming up to 200 by DOE. We're going to deploy the speed brake again. Portland on this approach is for crater as the star is kind of a weird one, because you do a bunch of turns, and then when you get to Heron you do kind of a really quick turn base, and then the aircraft or the airport's, you know, right there. So when we eventually turn base at Heron here, that's when I'll configure the ILS to capture. So we should be at 175, so I'm going to deploy the speed brake full. When we make this turn here, I'm going to deploy flaps 1 as well, because we are only about 15 or so nautical miles. Let's see here, 11 nautical miles, my correction there. So yeah. Should be at 175, and obviously we're not. And that just means, this just means that it's kind of a hard turn to make, and that it's unable to kind of stay on the flight path. It'll correct itself in a moment. Flaps 1. So you can see here that this is our flight path and this is where we are now. Because it was kind of a radical turn to make, it will go to the next waypoint without actually staying on this line. That's totally okay. Okay, we're going to hit map. We're going to be there. Okay, so I'm going to hit VOR lock. And the diamond is there, but it's not capturing yet. And approach. And that, there we go, it should capture the... it's going to go straight in, I don't want it to do that. Okay, there we go, yeah, it's lining up now. Flaps 2, track speed rake. Where is it? How far are we now? Oh, we're really close. My bad, whoops. Okay, that was a bad idea. It's turning around now. We don't want it to do that. I guess I'm going to take control myself. Every once in a while it does this weird thing where it does this weird thing where it tries and captures it elsewhere and it's not supposed to. Speed intervene. 150. Get into the glide slope again. I wonder if I can... if it will capture... No, it's being a pain. Okay. Fair enough, we will do it the hard way. Down, flaps down. Usually it lands on this approach without any problem, but it's not wanting to do that this time. So we'll just have to do it the hard way then. Sorry about this. This wasn't expected. I was believed that it would capture the ILS like it always does, but apparently it did not. Okay, flaps 40. What does the PAPL light say over there? It says we're too low. Okay, well we're going to increase our throttle. At least we're on point for the runway. It still says we're too low. Let's increase some throttle. And back throttle now. Throttle to idle. Gear is locked. Okay. So the red lights in front of me, those are known as the PAPL lights, and right now it says we're too low. So I'm increasing the throttle to compensate because I'm landing manually here. And now I'm going to throttle to idle. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, I'm going to have to manually throttle this all the way in. Light just changed to white, that's good. Throttle down, throttle forward. I'm going to be short, probably.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Speed brake extend, thrust reversers. Well, I was not expecting that to happen, but at the very least, everything worked and we landed successfully in Portland. So sometimes you just gotta, sometimes you just gotta take it as it comes and land, unfortunately, entirely manually. Yes, yes, yes. Well, hopefully, if you're doing this flight, that doesn't happen to you. But and we still got down, which is important. So basically all I did there was, before the aircraft got too far off of its course, I took over manual control, and I basically turned off autopilot and disabled the plane from capturing the ILS glide slope, and monitored my thrust and so forth to keep the plane, obviously level. I think we landed just a little bit short there because the PAPL light showed red right up until just before. So probably what happened is I landed on the approach of the runway instead of on the runway. Not the result I was hoping for, but at the very least, you want to get the aircraft down without, people dying. So we did that correctly. So the unfortunality of this flight simulation is that sometimes things do not work out, and you can't necessarily just stop and figure out what's going on. You have to kind of figure out on the fly, no pun intended. And but like I said, we were able to get the plane down. We landed successfully without damage to aircraft, so that's good. In the event that you're flying and this happens to you on your approach, basically do what I kind of did, which was monitor your speed and your altitude, and then do what you can to land, and you should be okay. You should be able to get it down at least. The situation I was in, though, did not call for a mayday because we we were obviously in control of the aircraft. If one of our systems, such as our landing gear, hadn't opened and locked, that might be a situation where you'd want to call for a mayday. But it's a pretty extreme case to use that. So we were just unlucky here. The turn was probably a bit sharp there on the approach, but it's peculiar because I have done that before. So it was probably my fault. I probably hit VOR too early, VOR lock too early, or something like that. But the problem notwithstanding, like I said, we landed correctly, so that's good. I'm going to do this flight again and figure out what was going on at some point because I want to know. One of the best kind of things to happen that's not supposed to happen that I've ever seen. I was watching Cat Strader. Check out his Twitch and his YouTube. Really great guy. Lots of videos specifically for flight sim. And he was flying in Boston and he was taxiing and he wasn't really paying attention, and he forgot that he was taxiing and he ended up basically taxiing into the river. But he was able to recover, so that was kind of funny. Okay, so we made it to Portland, and in spite of our challenges in landing, plane's okay, passengers are okay, so we're all good. I'll be doing more videos like this, and if you have a comment or a concern or something, feel free to put it in the comments, and I will absolutely address it. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas.